right, we are hopping over to ChessBase for an article that got my attention, and I wanted to talk a little bit about it because it might be informative to people who are new to the US Chess and FIDE rating systems to give an idea of, for instance, why I have never played a FIDE rated competition. I'm quite selective with where I would like to play and under what circumstances I would play, and hopefully by going through initial rating calculation, you will understand why I make recommendations for players to be selective with their initial tournaments. So let's get started. So taking a look at this article, the ELO ratings, inflation or deflation? That's easy. Depends on where you're located at on the globe. For the context of the United States, there is extreme deflation of the ratings compared to US chess ratings. It can be absolutely huge discrepancies. Now, in certain places in Europe where you can play FIDE-rated games multiple days a week, they can have the exact opposite effect. And there's a big reason based on the differences with US chess rating versus FIDE rating. For instance, with US chess rating, if, let's say, I am rated 2200 USCF and I beat a 1000 rated player, well, I get a fraction of a rating point that is so insignificant, you won't see my rating change at all. 0.00001, for instance. But in FIDE, they had rules that capped how much you can gain and lose on a given game. And you're guaranteed to get at least a point, no matter what, when you're beating someone. So it's easy to understand if you can play multiple times a week in clubs, you can farm low-rated players and gradually gain points over time that way. So that's one idea of how it can be different, we'll say, geographically, based off of how many FIDE-rated tournaments are available to you. In the US, there are not a lot of FIDE-rated tournaments. And what ends up happening with them, they're littered with children. And that is where we're going to find the meat of the article. So is there ELO inflation or deflation? You know, is a player with 2,600 in 1990 or 2000 comparable to one in 2019? Was he stronger, weaker? See, that's not so much a question of rating and statistics as much as access to information. We're seeing grandmasters younger and younger for multiple reasons, and there has never been a greater access to information. And just as Kasparov's my great predecessors, we have the ability to look back on those who came before us and learn from their mistakes. So each generation is stronger than the last, period. There's not really an argument in my mind. So he shows a sophisticated approach, doing comparisons, and the decline can be observed for all ratings, not only in the games of strong GM professionals. So what happened? A huge screw-up, in my opinion, of FIDE, who wanted to get more players rated worldwide. In '93, FIDE decreased the rating floor from 2205 to 2005. And then in 2001, they decreased it to 1800 as the minimum rating. In 2004, it was lowered to 1600. In 2006, it was lowered to 1400. And now we've even dropped it to 1,000. So you go, well, what's the problem? I mean, we get people with like 100 ratings in US chess. Well, in US chess ratings can rapidly change. In FIDE, not so much. It's based on volume of games. Okay, so hopefully you're starting to get why it will be massively deflated in the US by now, by drawing some conclusions from what I'm presenting. So, attempted explanation. Nowadays, many young players get a rating early in their chess development. They enter the list with a low rating, which increases over time, taking points from the player pool in the process, thereby leading to rating deflation. 100% accurate. Adolescents have a higher K factor that speeds up their gains but doesn't stop seasoned players from losing points. A proposal by the author of the article is young players and players with few rated games who clearly outperform their old rating could be rated with their performance. That way, points would be lost less often just for the opponent being underrated. Now, where do these low FIDE ratings come from? It's when we send our best of the best to World Youths. They get a low rating, they don't play FIDE events for years, they gain experience and hundreds of rating points and skill, and finally when they're ready, experts and masters, they jump into these FIDE rated tournaments with their 1,000 to 1,400 FIDE rating and maul the ratings of the adult players, which is why you're seeing more and more IMs in the US that have 2,350 ratings. They struggle to maintain that 2,400. Same thing for GMs. Struggle to maintain a 2,500 rating that earned them the title. Same thing for FMs. Go figure, because the kids are good, and COVID did not help because all of the really good ones did was train the entire time. So let's understand a major difference for rating change between US Chess and FIDE. In US Chess, we have bonus in tournaments. If you play 3 games or more in a tournament, and you are set to gain 32 points. Every point after point 32 that you've earned counts double. So you can understand how someone can gain 200 to 400 rating points. And the way the tournament is rated, the opponent who lost against that up-and-coming player, they calculate the loss based off of the post-event ratings, not the pre-event ratings. It softens the blow a bit. You lose less. Okay, so hopefully we've gotten some points so far with how you could rapidly change. FIDE has no bonus. They just have more rapidly changing ratings until your K factor gets stuck. But that's a story for a different day. So I wanted to take an example, and we're going to use 4 ratings. Let me get my little cheat sheet. Now, in these 4 ratings, we're first going to calculate US Chess, and I'm going to show you the difference with initial rating calculator. And this is the US Chess rating estimator. I'm going to set it to 0 games because we've never played a game before, and this is a good way to calculate your initial rating. Let's say we played a 2,200, a 1,900, a 1,700, and a 1,400. Well, let's say it's a pretty decent tournament. You scored 2 points. You get a rating of 1,800 because that's the average of all the ratings. Okay. Well, what about 3? 2067. Makes sense overall with the performance. And in the event of a perfect score, you add 400 points to the highest rated opponent that you defeated, so you actually get a 2,600 rating for this performance. Okay, now let's compare to FIDE. With FIDE, you average the rating of all rated opponents that you faced in the tournament. In this case, the average rating was 1,800 across those 4 opponents. Now, let's do the test to see how it works. Well, if you score 2 out of 4, that's going to be 1,800 because it's the average. It's the same. Now, with 3, what's the difference? 40 points. 1840 versus 2067, I believe. That's a bit of a difference. Well, what about a perfect score? 1880. 80 points. 1880 versus 2600. Yeah. So why do I have a problem with rating deflation, and why am I selective with tournaments? Because it averages in your first, I believe, 9 games, all the ratings of the opponents that you faced. So if I show up at a norm tournament, I play 7 games, I have an amazing performance, and I'm right at, say, close to 2,300 and getting the FM title, and then I go to an open FIDE tournament, and first round I play a FIDE rated 1,400. That FIDE rated 1,400 is averaged into all those other games and tanks my overall rating average, making it much harder for me to get to that promised land of the FM title. So be very careful when making the decision to jump in and play in your first FIDE rated event, because in my opinion, you should definitely wait until you're a certain level of play and try to be selective, because the initial jump is most important. If you get a good hop in FIDE, you have a great chance of making a title in the future. If you're living in the United States, if you get a bad hop, it's going to be years and years of work and expensive travel to play in FIDE events. So, food for thought. Hopefully, you got a little something out of this quick video. FIDE ratings are messed up. They really should work on them.